Hi everyone, and a warm welcome back to our session with EisnerAmper and Jenna Lemmon. This is our post-webinar Q&A session where we will tackle all the remaining questions that you have posed during the live webinar and we just didn't have enough time to answer. So welcome back, Jenna. It's lovely to see you back here.
Yes, excited to be here.
Nice. We have many questions that popped up during the session that we are going to dive into now. So you're really in for a treat. I'm super excited about the questions and also hearing from you, Jenna, on the answers. Let's kick off with the first question from the audience. What have been your biggest lessons learned in resource management during crises like the pandemic or the economic downturns?
Yeah, it's a good question. The pandemic was a crazy time to be in professional services and to be in this field. I think probably biggest lesson learned is you need to really deeply understand what your organization does, how we deliver client service. I think being resilient is key in these times where you have economic downturns. I think what we tend to see is because we offer such a diverse, service offering to our clients, you have sometimes where one aspect is up and the other one is down. And so having resiliency in the types of services that you offer is going to be key to making sure that you can weather those bad times. I think, that's really specific to advisory too, and that we're incredibly responsive to what's happening in the marketplace. And so understanding how these changes or these, even things like the federal administration change or things that are happening globally, how that impacts your organization, what it means for your clients will help you to get ahead of what we can expect coming down the road from a resource management perspective. So understanding the services we deliver, I think, is a lesson learned, and making sure we're building resiliency internally and cross-training people so that when they can't be deployed with one service, we can align them to be deployed on another service. So that's kind of lessons learned from either economic downturns or certainly the pandemic was a big example of that.
Nice. Thank you so much. That's very insightful. The next question is around forecasting and how far out is your forecast? Advisory has been harder for us to forecast since the work isn't normally reoccurring work.
Yeah, it's tough. Like advisory is not easy. It's not easy to be a resource manager in this space. And so I think, our goal is we do look at a 30, 60, 90-day forecast as much as possible. So we want that 30 is obviously very strong. The 60 is strong as well. The 90 is easier for some teams than other teams. Ultimately, we're moving to have all of our contracted value in Run. So every assignment that we know of in perpetuity until we know it's going to end. So if we have an engagement that's going to last 6 or 9 months, we definitely want that in Run as far out as we know. For some teams, that's easier to do because the type of service they deliver and the life cycle of their client engagements. For some teams, it's really tough. They don't know what they're going to be working on in 90 days because they haven't sold it yet. And so you have to make sure that you're approaching this from it's not a one size fits all model to make sure everybody has the same level of forecasting capabilities. But just making sure that you understand what each team is doing, how they win work, having an eye on the pipeline to make sure you're connecting the dots between when are these projects wrapping up and what are we going to redeploy those professionals on when that does happen, is key. And so as much as possible, we're getting it as far as we can into the future. But to your point, advisory is tough. It doesn't always happen that cleanly or that quickly. So making sure we do have everything that we know in there, and that we recognize that not every team has sold that work yet, so that forecast is not going to populate right away
Yeah.
is key. So, and then we also feather in aspects of the sales pipeline as well, right? So maybe you don't have these projects yet, but it looks like you've got 5 or 10 in the pipeline. Do we expect those to hit? Do we have enough assurance now around that to go ahead and tentatively schedule it and run? So pushing back and making sure that any known work or any suspected work is getting entered into Run.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. The next one is around alignment inside the business. How do you align with other parts of the business? How are the resource management functions and processes governed? What is the organizational reporting structure and the executive sponsorship? So many questions wrapped up in one.
Yeah, so I think unique to advisory, our resource function and our finance function really work hand in hand. And so we're constantly in communication about how we're building our forecast. again, it's not just resource managers or people that are doing staffing that are leveraging Run. We're now taking that data, being able to project our forecasted utilization and the resulting revenue that goes along with that. And so making sure that we're constantly on the same page with our strategic growth function, our finance function, our resource function, and all that data comes from our Run system. So we're working hand in hand with finance. We have, weekly stand-ups that are a finance and resource touch base. We're in contact with our FP&A team and monitoring headcount to budget. That falls under the purview of resource management. In terms of our governance structure, I would say it's evolving, right? So if we think back to that resource management maturity model, we've very quickly gone from a 1 or 2 to just about a 2 or 3 at this stage. So we're excited for our processes to continue to mature as we grow, and to add more governance around that. I think the governance structure and sort of how we prioritize staffing is something that we need to socialize with our leaders and make sure we're on the same page. I think that's going to prevent a lot of friction in the future if they understand the KPIs we're monitoring, how we're prioritizing staffing, and they're in agreement with that overall approach. And so we'll continue to sort of mature and advance that as things go along. Our organizational reporting structure. So today, our resource management function reports directly up through our chief operations officer within our department. So it's very contained in our department. We have resource managers in all the other departments at the firm, in tax and audit and in outsourced services. And those resource management functions are also contained within the service line. So they're very specific to the type of work that's being delivered, because that's really how the resource management is going to vary, right? Is at that service line level. And so that's the structure that we have in place today. So we don't have a firm-wide RMO that we all sort of report up into. When we have needs to staff projects across service lines, it's resource management leaders connecting directly with other resource management leaders. And so we're being able to leverage our workforce across those service lines in that way. But it is, I would say, the governance structure and reporting structure is contained within the service line at EisnerAmper.
Makes sense for the type of business EisnerAmper is in. I'm just wondering if you could shed any lights on the kind of connection points across the resource managers in those different lines of services. How are you aligning? What is your cadence?
Yeah, we're meeting frequently. We're actually about to start sort of weekly meetings and making sure we're talking a lot more frequently. Obviously, there are busier seasons for them, busier times of the year where they're pretty heads down and doing their roll forward process and their annual planning process. But we're talking on a regular basis in terms of as we have resource needs come up. So we've got projects right now where we have assurance professionals and tax professionals aligned to the projects. And so we have regular communication. We also will partner on firm-wide initiatives, right? So if we collectively agree that, hey, this aspects of time management is a problem, right? Or we would like this certain report, or we would like to make sure we're incorporating this measure into performance management that we continue to see an issue with. We will collectively as a team sort of get together, define what we want that to be, and then we'll escalate that up to firm leadership. So we're stronger together whenever we have sort of each other to back us up. And so we've definitely built a lot of relationships and continue to build resiliency by utilizing each other's teams and cross-resourcing within the firm. So yeah, excited to continue the relationships and developing, across service lines.
Oh, that's beautiful. Stronger together. I love that. And just in terms of those meetings, company-wide with the different parts of the business, I wonder if you can share any like more details around what you're actually looking at in terms of Run. Which charts or overviews have you found most helpful for those basically meetings across the business?
Yeah, so the report feature is key. We've actually now created our own reports that we have favorited, that we continue to go back to again and again. So one is a service line view report where we pull in all of advisory. So again, we've got 4 different teams now. So making sure we can just look at our department when we want to and using the filters to be able to achieve that is great. Another request we get a lot is we want, this practice leader wants to see everybody on their team and what they're scheduled on. And so we'll pull the resource management by person, by project, by team, utilizing those reports and then, taking those analytics and putting them into charts sometimes or graphs. We're benchmarking our schedule accuracy month over month to help teams realize, how accurate they are in scheduling and how that hygiene needs to improve. And then utilizing those same types of reports to be able to build that forecast and say, for these months, here's the number of hours scheduled. If you layer on this bill rate, that's XYZ in terms of revenue. And those reports we're actually putting in a slide deck that goes up monthly to executive leadership. And so we're reporting out on the performance of advisory. We look at a lot of different aspects, but forecasting is now a new component of that report that's going to C-suite level executives at the firm level. And we're able to feel really good about those projections and the accuracy of that forecast. So yeah, lots of things that we're extracting and being able to share across the firm to really bring together the holistic view of how advisory's performance can be expected to achieve.
Amazing. Thank you for just a bit more detail on that. That's super interesting and fascinating. Thank you. Nice. Let's tackle the next one. Is the ultimate goal for EisnerAmper to have a centralized RMO?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, a lot of organizations do have this in place. It's not something that today we're very focused on. I would say today we're focused on making sure we have resource management excellence in each of our individual service lines. And so we're optimizing processes, we're implementing technology, we're making sure that this complex M&A environment that we're in, that we have good data around how we're managing hygiene on scheduling, that we're reducing dropped hours and reducing bench time. And so today our focus is really optimizing the resource management function individually within our own service lines. Will we eventually build out a firm-wide RMO? Potentially. It's when we think about the maturity of where we're at and all these combinations that we've had with mergers and acquisitions over the last 12 months, our focus is mostly stabilizing and making sure we've got good processes in place from that perspective. But we do have a lot of firm level leadership support for the resource management function overall. And so our enterprise transformation office has an active role in optimizing the tools that we're using, understanding analytics, understanding benchmarking across the firm. And those are opportunities where we're meeting on a regular basis as well with that enterprise transformation office. And so they definitely recognize the value of the resource management function and are providing a lot of support at the firm level. But at this stage, we don't have a firm-wide RMO. We're just collaboratively working together across service lines and then managing that internally within each service line.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That makes a whole lot of sense. And I think even the RMI is very clear that like a 5 in terms of maturity, RMI maturity is not always the best for any organization because it really depends on the context and the business and so many other factors. So yeah, I can very much relate to what you're sharing. And the excellence piece, I think you're very strong at improving like day by day. So that's cool.
Oh yeah, important.
The next question that was posed is, are you currently facing any challenges? What are your current challenges?
Sure. So, yeah, as I mentioned, so EisnerAmper is the first large public accounting firm to receive private equity backing. And the result of that private equity backing has been a lot of capital investment in mergers and acquisitions. So right now, that's a challenge that we have. It's just a challenging environment, right? It feels like as soon as we merge a combination in and we come up for air, there's another one coming down the pipe. And so making sure that, a lot of times when they join EisnerAmper, they're doing so because of all we have to offer and because there's alignment in what they offer as well. Our values align, maybe our go-to-market strategy aligns. They bring something to the table we don't have today, a service offering, a geography that we're not in. And so bringing that together and kind of unifying that into the practice is a bit of a lift. And from a resource management perspective, it means a lot of change management because every group that's coming in is getting on Runn and we're demoing the tool and we're understanding how their business operates. So that's a challenge in and of itself, just being in an environment that's growing very rapidly, that has a lot of change going on, that is implementing tools to manage the change, and that's doing a lot of mergers and acquisitions. I think is just a challenge. I mentioned during the call that we've got 4 different timekeeping systems in advisory and 3 different financial systems.
Oh,
That's a challenge. Just data is a challenge right now for us, but making sure we're making investments in the right spots to be able to overcome those challenges and that we have good processes. We're using the API feeds to extract data from the right systems and bring together that holistic view in a way that's actionable for our leaders, actionable insights for our leaders to make decisions on. So it is a challenge, but it's something that we're working through, and we've got good plans in place for the next 12 to 18 months to bring things together. We're excited for that day, one day when we're going to be all in the same system, and but in the meantime, it's a little bit messy, and that can be hard.
yeah. And that can also be kind of the joy of, getting up every morning and helping shift that and progressing forward. Yeah, that's super cool.
Hmm.
Thank you. What are your predictions, Jenna, in regards to how the resource management industry will be changing?
Yeah, so I'll start with AI, right? AI is the hot topic. AI is a big piece of how we're evolving as an organization. It's something that we're investing in significantly, just like many public accounting firms or many companies at this stage are investing in. So yeah, I think in a perfect world, wouldn't it be great if we could have some AI matching that can take our demand and take our supply and be able to, provide recommendations on scheduling, I think would be key. We've got a bit of work to do with quantifying our demand before we're at a stage where we're ready to do that. So making sure that we've got the right pieces in place to be able to leverage AI technology, from a skill set perspective as well, maybe capturing the types of projects that we've worked on, logging that as skills and experience for each of our colleagues, utilizing that information to better align to training opportunities or opportunities to shadow on different projects and get reps on different projects that makes them more resilient, more able to be dynamic and to plug into different work. So I love AI. I think it's going to be playing a really big role in resource management in the next, 5 years. Excited to see how we can begin to incorporate that ourselves. But yeah, I think AI is going to really shape the industry, just like it will with many other functions. Resource management is not immune to that change. But I think it's a good thing too. It's not ever going to get rid of the people component, right? We're in the people industry. That's what we do. People are our assets. But better leveraging technology is going to make us all more efficient. So we're excited for the AI wave, just like everybody else is.
Beautiful. That's a very positive outlook. I just wonder, Jenna, if you had a magic wand and you could wish for any AI feature, what would that be if you were to create magic?
Sure. I would say predictive scheduling. So if we have really good data around the skill sets of our people, their level of experience or certifications or industry alignment, and then really good data on our demand coming in, this project requires this amount of effort with this skills and this expertise. In a perfect world, those two pieces of information would talk to each other, and our leaders are more reviewing those recommendations and making decisions for go or no go on the scheduling. So yeah, if I had a magic wand, we would be connecting our pipeline of information coming in from a sales perspective and our talent that we have internally and being able to provide recommendations on scheduling. I think that's, the next step that would help us to elevate what we're doing.
Nice. And just on that note, what do you think will never be replaced by AI in terms of what the resource manager does? Which skill sets are critical to hone into now and even more so in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the people business, right? So you're never going to replace the people component of resource management. You have to apply judgment. You have to be able to navigate the changing circumstances of your workforce and their own personal needs, right? Think back to the pandemic when people had kids at home and they weren't able to work a full schedule or they had to make accommodations for taking care of family or things like that. AI can't navigate that. You need a person. You need a person to be able to jump in and do that. So the skills and expertise that we have in the people management space is never going to go away. The demand for that will never leave. So it's really more about leveraging it where it makes sense and then honing in on the people piece where that makes sense as well.
Nice. Yes, fully on board with that. Thank you. The next question is around what are the best and worst parts about resource management? Quite a general question.
Yeah, yeah. And it's one of my favorite things. I mean, resource management is so much fun. What I love most about it is that we get to work with everybody, right? It's like I'm not siloed out. I'm not only doing this one thing or only servicing, these certain clients. I get to be part of everybody's successes. And so when they win a large project, it's a huge victory for them and we get to take part in scheduling that project. It's a victory for us too. And so, their wins are our wins, their pain is our pain. And so I really like being that involved with leaders. I love, having gained tenure now at the organization, seeing the teams develop. I've seen people that have been managers that have made that partner track and made that, made it to their career goals. So being involved in their success and having a role in how they're growing has been a lot of fun. That's one of my favorite things about resource management. Um, the less fun parts, maybe some of the challenges or things we don't enjoy as much is you mentioned a magic wand. Like I sure wish I had a magic wand and I could say, poof, here's a controller that you can use for this project, or poof, here's an extra project manager that we need at exactly when we need it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that can be a challenge is we can't just invent people out of thin air that can execute the project you're looking for. So it is a bit of a puzzle, a people puzzle of who's going to be the right fit and what does that need to look like. So that part's hard. It's not easy to navigate whenever you have limitations on either side, either the client side or the capacity side. Is just one of the challenges of the industry. But it's fun to overcome those and be able to get that win in the end, which is what ultimately supports the team and helps them to win as well.
Yeah, beautifully put. It's such a team effort, right? Resource management. Like it's most effective and helpful when all the pieces come together and the people connect. That's the beauty of it. I'm really loving that part of it also, as you mentioned. Nice. The second to last question is on vision and mission. What's the vision and mission of resource management? Why is your organization doing resource management? And what's the value proposition of resource management?
Yeah, so the vision and the mission is to get the right person in the right place at the right time, right? So it's our goal to make sure we have the resources needed to execute the work that we're selling. And so that's our function, that's our job in resource management is to make sure we're supporting these client service professionals. Why do we do it? Because it can't be done without us. I mean, we're absolutely critical to how the organization runs. It's funny because when I jumped into this role, we didn't have a resource manager. And now I'm like, how did we ever survive without one? And so being again, I call myself that chief dot connector, right? It's yes, I do resource management, but I do a million other things that sort of are resource management adjacent or sort of touch resource management. And so, that's why we have the function is because it's critical to how we operate and how we efficiently and effectively deploy the right resources on the right projects at the right time. And the last part of your question is what is our value proposition? So again, I think we're lucky in that we had a lot of executive leadership buy-in. They understand the value of resource management. I think it helps to quantify that value and to reiterate it early and often. And so we talk about resource management every month in our monthly management meetings. I'm talking about it with each leader on their team every month. I'm putting the analytics in front of them. This is information they've never seen, they never had insights into before. And so being able to give them more data that can kind of summarize one aspect of how their group is performing gives them insights that they can take action on to better manage the practice. And so that's the value is being able to better support our leaders, being able to take things off their plate, free them up to do what they do best, which is to lead and develop the practice. And us to really get involved and make sure that that scheduling is happening at the right level and those teams are supported in how they're doing that. So value is everywhere. I mean, it touches so many aspects. It's qualitative, it's quantitative, and it's something we talk about all the time.
Yeah, yeah, that's well said. Thank you so much. And lastly, a more personal question on your journey. What has inspired your personal journey from starting off in recruiting, going into resource management, and what you love most? There are so many parts you love, but what do you love most about this role?
Yeah, so I did start in recruiting. I think it's a great sort of leg in the door for resource management anyway, because I was doing a lot of the same activities, right? I had to understand the skills of the team and then basically go out to the market and find that skill. So now I'm doing the same thing. I'm just looking internally instead for the skills, and so it's I'm able to better understand each team, the types of skills and experience that's required to deliver their client service and if we don't have it internally, then we can much more quickly scale and go externally, right? I'm very familiar with how long it takes to find that kind of talent, maybe the limitations from the marketplace perspective or geographical perspective on where we can get it. So building our bench of external options as well as diving in and looking internally. So I think my journey from starting in recruiting has been just a very natural flow into resource management. The work is very similar. It's just a bit of a different structure in how we're finding it and being able to achieve that success or get that accepted offer or align that person to the right project. And yeah, what I love most about this role is that it is so people focused, right? And so I remember back in the beginning when I first received the offer for resource management, my response was like, I don't know if I want to do that. It sounds like a lot of scheduling, and I don't know that I would be happy scheduling, right? And it
Yeah.
isn't. It isn't just scheduling. It's hardly any scheduling. It really is making sure we have actionable data to make decisions that are going to drive the practice forward and it's very people based. It's how do we navigate the changing landscape of our demand and our clients needs that are coming in and how are we aligning our people to give them career opportunities where they can progress and grow and have the right skills to continue to develop in their careers. And so I like the people aspect the most. I mean, no 2 days are the same. I talk to 50 people a day from, 10 different departments. And I really wouldn't have it any other way. So I love how ingrained we are in this complex organization that we're in. And so making sure that we're continuing to foster an ecosystem of talent development and performance management is key. And so I love sort of being at the center of that.
Yeah, beautiful. And just one more question on that. You mentioned that you are the first hire into resource management. You were the first one to basically dedicate your time to this role. Can you share a little bit about the journey of basically being the first one and to now? How has that kind of function grown, and where are you at now, and what other recommendations, advice might you have for people who are just starting off being that individual single resource manager like you were back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really changed, right? So our department really came together over the last 2 years. Again, more than 50% of our department has come from mergers and acquisitions. And so it's been a lot of sort of ad hoc different processes and people in place, and we kind of had to bring that get together under one unified strategy. And so making sure that we had a resource manager that sort of took point on that was going to be critical to success. So when I jumped into this role, no one had ever done it before. People didn't quite get what I did. They're like, what does a resource manager do? Like, what's your job? When do I call you? Right. And so I kind of came up with the phrase like, when you have a project that has no person or a person that has no project, that's when I get involved. And so for the most part, our teams are maintaining their own schedules. And I'm here to sort of run interference or to get involved when we see a bit of a gap in our supply and our demand. Um, what advice I would give to other resource managers starting out on this journey is again like leading with listening, right? The key to your success lives within your client service team. So understanding what they need to be successful. If they're successful, you're successful, right? If we're effectively staffing projects, that's going to translate really well into being able to demonstrate the value of what we're doing in resource management. And it's also making sure I'm presenting myself as a resource to them, right? As I'm showing this data on a monthly basis and we're looking at their schedule accuracy and their forecast, I'm ending each call with like, what do you need from me? How can I help you to be successful? So making sure, and sometimes that answer is we'd love more reports on this, or we'd like to look at analytics related to this, or understand what other teams are doing this type of work. And so that, I leave each of these meetings with some action items and sort of further along the value of what we're doing. So a lot of times I feel like resource management is viewed as an operational leadership function, which is critical to how we're going to succeed. And it really is making sure we're checking in constantly with the teams because their needs will continue to change, and it's upon us to make sure that we're pivoting to support that change. So yeah, listening to your client service teams, getting ingrained in the work that they're doing, understanding the goals of what they're trying to achieve is going to help you to be more successful as a resource manager.
Beautiful. And I love your approach of being really in service of basically the teams, of the client teams, and always checking in. How can I be in service of you? How can I support you? What do you need from me so that you can thrive? I'm here as your fuel.
Absolutely.
And can you just outline how many people are in the resource management team now?
Yeah, so when I started, it was just myself. We added two full-time data analysts to support just all the analytics and all the timekeeping data and other things that needed to be addressed. And now we're adding another resource management coordinator. So she's going to take point on a lot of the requests that are coming in and be able to work with me directly on building out the function. So it is evolving. It's evolving quickly. And as we continue to have mergers and acquisitions, my role is evolving a bit as well, and will continue to be more of an operational leadership role. So growing our resource management team, when I started, I was the only one. Now we've got 4 people dedicated to the resource management function, and we're getting more efficient in how we deliver the service every day. So excited to continue to see that growth.
Beautiful. Yes, me too. And wishing you and all of EisnerAmper the best of success on that journey. So, Jenna, thank you again so very much for our conversation, for the webinar, for the post-webinar Q&A session. It's been extremely insightful. And yeah, I want to share from me and from the community big things and best of luck onwards on that journey.
Very good. Thank you very much. I could talk resource management all day, so this is an absolute pleasure. I appreciate the
So
opportunity.
let's connect again.